Okay, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I'd just like to welcome you to our 9 a.m. webinar series in our LIU LearnOn. This one is on moving to student collaboration. I am going to add the slide deck here into the chat box. So I'm just letting you know that it's in there. You'll notice that you aren't able to chat. I'll cover the whatnots here in a second. So this is our team. If you've been to our LearnOn webinars, then you will know the first couple slides here are kind of for the good of the order to get everybody together. I have highlighted my name and my contact information here in our team should you need to reach out to me. Everyone here has contributed in some way to either our webinars and or our website. So this is a fabulous team. We've been working hard all week, I should say all the last 2 weeks. Oh, it's telling you need permission to access the slide deck. I got you. I will fix this. I'm going to fix it before we even get started. Give me 1 moment. I won't leave you hanging. Okay. I would say refresh. Oop, that's not the link I wanted to send you, but okay. If you refresh the slide deck, it should work right now. If not, I'll mess with it later. I just want to get through it. We will have it posted on the website. If you haven't gone to the website recently, under recorded webinars, you'll see both links to the recorded webinar as well as to the slide deck. So if need be, I'll send you out there and we'll correct it here a little bit later. So I'm just going to get us started. So our team's been working quite a bit here over the last 2 weeks to put this together for you. I'm going to maximize this. I apologize. Our Zoom webinar meeting norms, if you haven't been to one of our webinars before, just as a heads up, our chat, our microphone, and our camera have been disabled on your end just due to the size of many of these webinars. If you do have comments or questions, you should be able to open the chat and just type directly to me. I prefer if your questions go in the Q&A so that I know that they're questions. That way, if I get a couple messages in chat, I don't lose your question. Because as you see, I'm running this one solo today. All right, so if you could put any questions in the Q&A, that would be fabulous. At the end, if you have something that you would like to verbalize, if you want to raise your hand, I can unmute your mic so that you can verbalize as well. And I think I just want to remind you that the Act 48 credit does get pushed out for you to complete at the end when I close the room. I will also try to remember to put that in the chat for you. I do have those links ready at the end of this particular webinar. So just a reminder, PPID, if you're in the state of Pennsylvania, that's what the Act 48 credit is for. If you're not in our state, you won't be able to enter for that credit. Our webinar archives are on YouTube if you are looking for them, as well as linked into our learnon.iu website. If you look under educators recorded webinars, you will find everything that we have been sharing all week long, including the slide decks. So just as a reminder, we're facing the continuity of education, and you have probably heard from your district if you are moving on with planned instruction, or if you are moving on with enrichment and review, or if you're moving on with a combination of the two in some form or another. So keep that in mind as we go over this, what might work better for enrichment review, what might work better for planned instruction, et cetera, et cetera. We also would like to remind you about the free and appropriate public education, and that act applies to all of our students with disabilities, but you should also consider those students who do not have access to technology or the internet when designing our lessons. Just a few best practices that we would like to remind you of. First of all, that less is more. It's important to prioritize and balance what we are asking students to do when they are learning from home, because they're all in very different learning situations. When it comes to video, it's really important, if you possibly can, to share your face. If you share your face, it's kind of a social emotional connection in case your students haven't seen you in some time. Also, limit the length to under 6 minutes when you possibly can. Try to be clear with your objectives and expectations. Lay it all out. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. And when you can, identify the amount of time it's going to take to complete a task so that students know how long they need to devote their undivided attention. This one, I can't stress enough, the idea of organizing and sequencing your instructions is super, super helpful for both your students and the parents who may be trying to help facilitate them. If you can give a checklist for students and parents so they know, hey, I did this, I did this, I did this, and this is how I do it, that is going to save everyone so much time. I've heard from so many parents who are like, I don't know what to do and I can't get it organized. Having a checklist there to say, okay, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? All right, check, 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 we're done. So really that idea of sequencing is super important. So our webinar outcomes today, we're going to be identifying how to use certain tools to facilitate student collaboration. If you have been to our earlier webinars, you're going to see some of these tools again. I'm just showing you how you can do student collaboration with them, like how you could group some students and that sort of thing. So some of these tools are review, and I actually link you out to some of the other webinars in case you want to see a couple of other ways to use the tools as well. We also remind you that this webinar is short. We're trying to do it in 20 to 30 minutes, and I have run over a couple of times trying to fit everything in and answer all of my questions. So if I cut a question and say, hey, shoot me an email instead, that's just because I'm trying to honor the amount of time that I promised that this webinar will be. So that's an option. Additionally, if you have an instructional coach or a tech coach or an administrator that you can reach out to at your district for more specific support, we really encourage you to do so. One of the things you need to keep in mind when using technology tools is if your district does approve them. A lot of districts have COPA lists. That's the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. And those are tools that the school district says are okay and that parents have signed off and said, yes, we'll let our children use these. So you need to look back and see, hey, do we have that? Is this tool on that list? Can I request that tool be on that list and have them properly vetted? If you are curious about that, you can read the terms and conditions or the privacy policy on any of these tools, and it's going to give you that background information to help you out. So I'm going to go right into our tools because I have so many that I want to share, and I'm not sure I'm going to get to share them all. So the first one, if you have been in our previous webinars, you've probably seen the Backchannel Chat. And one of the issues with student collaboration is how to get the students together to collaborate. So one of the things you can do with Backchannel Chat, because it really doesn't require much upfront load for us to create it and get it rolling, is creating groups of Backchannel chats so that you maybe would only share one link with the Backchannel Chat with a group of students. So what I'm going to have us do is actually go into this link that says group 1. Gotta minimize this out. You'll notice that I do that a lot, and I'm going to apologize for making your screen take over, or making the window take over your screen. So this is group 1. If you'd like to go in and check it out, I'm going to click in here. If you want to get a feel for what a Backchannel Chat is like. So Backchannel is pretty simple. You can set it up. You can actually password protect it as well. So what I would do is maybe post the link to certain students in my LMS or however I'm communicating that information. And then I would also send the password maybe in a separate email so that students could gather access to it. This one I believe I left unlocked. There's lots of settings. One of the nice things I like about Backchannel Chat when you're using it with students is that you can download the transcript. And there's a couple of other options. I can also send an invite. Oh no, it's experienced an error. We'll just hit this guy again. So one of the things that I have noticed with certain tools is bandwidth is becoming an issue with certain ones. Tools that seem to work seamlessly before are sometimes not working quite as seamlessly due to the heavy traffic of so many educators trying to utilize them now, when maybe not as many educators were utilizing them initially. And that might be the case with Backchannel Chat. So I'm going to go back and just try group 2 and see if that works a little bit differently. What I would do if I were setting this up when it works is I would set up several different rooms and send students in groups that I've chosen into those rooms so that I know who's in what group and in what room. And then I would set different time slots for those meetings. So I would maybe set aside 15 to 20 minutes for each group that I wanted to do, and I would be in the room with the group. What I would not do, and this is coming from me as a 7th grade English language arts teacher and an 8th grade English language arts teacher, I would not set up all the rooms and send all the students into them without my supervision. You know your students best. Backchannel chat doesn't allow any cursing or anything like that, and you can download the transcripts, but you need to be there. So my suggestion is to set it up and set up time slots that you know, hey, this is when we're gonna meet in Backchannel chat. So this is synchronous, meaning it happens all simultaneously. Just because Backchannel is not being very friendly right now, and it seems to be a little glitchy today, I'm gonna cross this out of it and go back to our slide deck. So that's one option. Second option is Padlet. Padlet you can use synchronously or asynchronously. That means synchronously meaning everybody's using it at the same time. Asynchronously means we log in when we have a chance. I like tools that are asynchronous because typically those tools use less bandwidth and provide a little more flexibility for our students. So Padlet has different ways of laying itself out. It's very simple to set up. And it's just padlet.com. And you'll notice this is my space. My Padlets are down here today. Yesterday they were up here. So the link I have for you guys in here, I'm going to copy and paste over because that's my glorious shelf. So that's my Padlet link in the chat. And if you go to my glorious shelf, you'll notice I've already set up groups. So this will take a little bit of organization on the front end by you by assigning students to groups and expecting them to kind of type under each group. So you're welcome to go in. I always tell my students that their title should be their name. I like to pretend like Ben's here when he's not. So you get the idea where you can set up groups using a particular Padlet. So let me go back to my dashboard here. So when I go to make a Padlet, these are all of my options. This one is shelf. So it gives me those columns. You can also use it for lots of other organizational tools, but that one's nice. Yesterday, I actually shared Backchannel with a couple of people. There's a different one called Backchannel, which is really useful. That's in a previous webinar as well. So I'm going to go back over here to our slide deck. And I'm not going to go into present mode because I don't want to blow up the screen again. So I'm just going to hop down here to Wakelet. So the other collaboration space that I think works well for certain students is Wakelet. So the nice thing about Wakelet is that I've shared it before if you were on my curation webinar, is that it's a great tool for curating things. You can actually create a whole lesson into Wakelet and share it with students. You could almost use it kind of like as a way to push off activities to students. So I like Wakelet for that. All right, I see a question in here by Terry. When you use shelf, will the students' responses also be in the column underneath your message? Yes, as they click plus, I'll show you that real fast. So I can, but you're gonna have to organize it. And again, it can go synchronously. We're using it synchronously. So it's going to be a matter of organizing it and kind of setting a protocol. I've always set the protocol with my students in the classroom that when I want them to type, I want them to type their name at the top and what have you. But you can also, in the share settings of this, set up a couple of different ways to share it. So like I can share it on Google Classroom. And if I go into these settings, I can set it up so that students have to log in to use it as well. It's in here somewhere. So like what I didn't do was that. If you set attribution, you'll notice what happened is it's set up, and as you're not logged in, it says anonymous. And I can set up the order. I could allow you to comment on each post if I wanted to. I could also be a moderator if I wanted to. And There's filter profanity for those of you who teach middle school. So there's a couple of different settings, and if you'll notice, like if I hit those now, they'll go into effect. So I think I got you, Terry. So everyone can see all the shelves, or only you can see all 4? Everyone can see all the shelves. So this is a nice collaboration space if you don't mind everyone seeing all the shelves. If you wanted to, you could create a Padlet for each group and do it that way. I have seen that done. The only caveat is with Padlet, unless you pay for the premium version, they only give you 3, which is fine. You can like play the 3 game. What you do is you archive them and then pull them back out when you need them. When you archive them, people can't go into them. It's because of that, I don't like to do separate groups because there's not enough Padlets. I taught 4-hour-long sections of 7th grade ELA, and with 3 Padlets, I couldn't give each student their own Padlet, or each group their own Padlet in each class. So I could do 3 Padlets. I couldn't even do 1 Padlet per class. So doing this was one way for me to monitor it. And I find that setting it up in a synchronous way first with the students, meeting with them, giving them the guidelines usually works better. But this might be a tool that doesn't work for you. And I totally understand it. That's why I'm trying to show you as many tools as I possibly can. Gotcha, Lori. Elsingly, could you please review which of these integrate into various LMSs like Schoology and Google Classroom? All right, so this one integrates anywhere. It's a link. You can throw it right into Schoology. There may be an integration into Schoology, like a full integration, but I'm not sure. This one definitely goes into Classroom, which I just showed you. Backchannel is super simple. It's a link. You either post it into Google Classroom or you post it into Schoology as a link. That's pretty much the only way you're gonna have to use that one. A lot of these have embed codes. If they have embed codes, you can stick them into Schoology or Canvas with the embed code. Almost all of these play well with Google Classroom. That might be just a personal bias of mine because I used Google Classroom pretty heavily when I was in the classroom. But I think most of these. Wakelet, for example, integrates with that and Teams very, very well. So I'm gonna go into Wakelet here really quickly. And I gave a webinar, it was my curating webinar, that I went over Wakelet in a little more detail. So I'm gonna go a little fast. Please feel free to go back and see my curating webinar to get some more details. I might have some time to go in a little in depth. So the way Wakelet works is you create a login and you create a collection. And you can add anything you want in here. And essentially, it's just a collection of links, a collection of directions. If you go with text, a collection of YouTube videos. In my curating webinar, we discovered the YouTube videos stay right in here. So the nice thing about linking them in here is the kids won't get redirected all the way out to YouTube where they can click around and get lost and never come back to your lesson. You can link tweets in here, bookmarks, images, PDFs, which I think is great. Anything directly from Drive, as long as you have your sharing settings set correctly, OneDrive and Flipgrid, which is great. All right, games. As a fine arts teacher, I want to post a couple of pictures and for students to discuss what they like better from each, etc. What works the best for this? You could easily use Padlet for that because Padlet lets you post pictures for that in particular where they can then add comments. If you saw when I was over in the settings, I could set it so that everyone could comment. So that would be one way for me to do that. If I use Google Classroom, I could easily post that material and leave comments open for students to comment on the material in there too. You could even, I think you can't really do comments in Wakelet. Wakelet's more of a curation space. Depending on how you did it, you might be able to do it in Wakelet as well, as far as posting pictures. So in Wakelet, I can add all of these different things right across here, title my collection, write a description, add a cover image. Up here, I can have a couple settings. I can set it as unlisted, which means anyone I send the link to has access to it. That's typically how I do it. You can also set it to public so everybody can see it. That's a choice that you have. I prefer unlisted when I start one. One of the things you have to do is, I'm just gonna see what web addresses. I still have a slide in there. I'm gonna link a Padlet in there. I think. Pasted my URL. There we go. Space in there I didn't like. So you'll see as a link populates my glorious shelf. I can also edit what it says. so that if that's what I want my students to do, I can easily share it and do it that way, and link all of the activities I want for a lesson in here. I can change the view. I can do a tile view. I can do a compact view. It's a little less picture-y. That's your choice. I really would stick to BD and compact because then they're in a sequential order. Makes it easier. I'm all about sequence with students. When you start to move into grid, it's more of a choice board. If you're looking at making a Wakelet like a choice board, you can do that. I would say if you did that, that you would probably want to add some text directions up the top, like, this is a choice board. Choose 3 and return to Google Classroom. I would be more specific, obviously. So once I'm done, I'm just going to hit save and exit. And this is what it would look like for my students. You'll notice that it has a readability option over here. And it comes out like here, and I can click here and go back to our Padlet, which maybe in group 1, I want to post a picture. I can do it that way. So this is my Wakelet. What I want to show is the collaboration aspect. So a couple of things. One, if I just wanted to share my Wakelet, you'll notice here I can share it via Google Classroom. I can share it via Remind. I can share it via Teams. I'm somebody who's posting my stuff to Twitter. Free all the time, Catherine. All the time, Wakelet is free. In fact, I'm going to show you some extra stuff that Wakelet's even doing now because of what's going on. So absolutely free. So I can also share it with a QR code if I'm handing out materials. I got my link down there to copy if you guys want to see. This is a really sad Wakelet, but I'll put it in the chat if you just want to go and click around. All right, the other thing I can do, and this is where you might find it useful with students, is that I can invite contributors. So if I wanted to, I could copy this link and send it, or I could send via email. You notice you can follow people on Wakelet too. You can send via email, you can copy this link, or you can copy this code and invite people to contribute to this. So if I maybe wanted my students to all curate materials that had to do with ancient Egypt, and I'm going to tell them I want a website, a video, a podcast, and I don't know, a picture of the pyramids. They could do that and create this board and then turn the board into me as a group. So that collaboration ability is in there. If your students have an email, that's all they need to access that in order to do a Wakelet. And they can get kind of fun. So the one thing I wanted to show you that gets fun about it, and you'll see here there's the embed code for those of you who maybe use Schoology or Canvas, you can use an embed code for it. I can also PDF export it. Notify just means to tweet or put on social media. I can change the visibility and I can delete it altogether. I'm going up here to where it says Surf School, and there's a link to that right in the slide deck, which hopefully is working now. And if I go into Surf School, you're going to see all of these Wakelets that have been created just for education. So a lot of these are education based. So you have the personal use of the educator, the Wakelet for sharing content, so resources to share with students, newsletters, interactive lesson. So if I just click over here, I'll give you an idea. So this is a great place to go for ideas. So central dogma of biology workflow, that's out of my wheelhouse. But it says after completing the tasks below, you will have a complete set of notes and you'll see how they built a lesson into Wakelet. So I'm just sharing, it's in there. If you scroll down here, Wakelet for collaboration, I enjoyed this one a lot. I'm going to show you this class research project. The students worked together to create this Wakelet full of resources having to do with Australia. So just a couple of ideas for you thinking about Wakelet collaboration-wise. This was a student Wakelet or an entire class Wakelet. The assignment submission, classroom discussion, you can use it that way, collaborating with PLN. And then student surfers are down here. Now I am going to note that if students create a login, they really should be 13 or over for COPA reasons. So if your students are under 13, they should not be creating logins into Wakelet. But these are student portfolios and assignments if you are working with someone over 13, where they have created their own login and they have their own assignments. So for instance, we'll look at the student portfolio. So what an interesting and fun assignment to have maybe a senior who is not going to be graduating, not going to be graduating like a typical graduation, create something like this to showcase all the things that they have maybe done over the past however many years. So just an idea, but students can collaborate. So you could have an entire class work on one, or you could put them into groups and have them work on one if they were 13 and over. So that's Wakelet, short and the sweet of it. You'll find that this is linked in here. You can get to Wakelet via clicking on this. The Surf School, that research project on Australia is linked in here too, just for some ideas. So the next tool I want to look at is Flipgrid. This one's come up a couple of times. I know that Ben went into it in a little deeper depth, I think, with demonstrating understanding, maybe, I'm not sure. But Flipgrid, super simple, easy. This link right here will take you right to Flipgrid. This one over here is going to take you to our LearnOn site where our Flipgrid tutorials are. And down here, I just want to point this out because this is where I go when I don't know a resource. When I'm like, I wonder how that's being used, or I want to see what people are doing, I'll go to Facebook and just type it into groups and see if I can find a group that's working on it. There are Facebook groups for every subject, grade level, and tool. And the Flipgrid Educators Facebook group is a great place to go for questions and answers in the middle of working. Science labs, yes, he showed you Zoom in the science labs, good calls. I'm like, what's your name? Absolutely, he went into great depth with that. So I would just say if you find yourself using a tool and you don't have a resource that you can go to right away, if you have a Facebook account, I would join a group and go find which group is one that runs it. There's several groups for Google in education. There's several groups for Flipgrid. I'm a member of Flipgrid Educators, and I find a lot of times they're sharing really cool ideas that I didn't even think of, and they're helping each other out. Like, how does this work? I'm new to Flipgrid. How do you do this? And you'll get a response from like 10, 15 teachers who've been using it on the regular in their classrooms. So I really do, even if you're not a social networker and you haven't done it before, I really suggest going, even if you lurk and just read what other people are posting in a lot of these Facebook groups or even on Twitter. That's where a lot of people are going right now to get answers and to figure out how to troubleshoot some of the little issues or idiosyncrasies that they're having, their situations, their classroom in their district. So I can't say that enough. I'm just going to say it again. There it is. All right. So on slide 12, what I did is I showed you how you can create kind of groups in Flipgrid. So for instance, group 1 is its own grid. So I put period 1, group 1. That way I can keep myself, because there's no limit to the amount of grids. Why not just create different grids for each group? So in this one, I just put a random brainstorm, share your best ideas solving world hunger. And it's moderated, meaning if you try to post something, I'm going to look at it first before I say it's okay. I find that that's probably a good way to handle things, at least initially, until students get the hang of things. So notice it's going to ask the student to log in with either Google or Microsoft. Usually, you can also open them up, I think, so there isn't quite as many logins. Get us in here so you can see the student side. So this is the student side. You're now seeing a video within a video. Pretty meta, huh? So what I find my students love to do is add stickers. So that's something that you can, once students get in, they go wild with it. So just fair warning, they can do all sorts of things. And then they just record and they'll count down. My big idea for solving world hunger is if we all just went through our pantries and found cans. That's not a good answer. My big idea for solving world, you got it. They get to rewatch it and they'll re-record it, et cetera, et cetera. I can download it at that point as a student if I want to save it. I can show the topic again if I'm not sure. I can add a sticky note. I can do a selfie. There you go. I can do a title, a link, and submit. That's how easy it is for students to submit in Flipgrid. So it's moderated, and that's why it isn't here. It's going to take me on the teacher end to go in. So I'm going to go into Flipgrid as just Flipgrid. And that was group 1. It says 1 video. You'll notice it has a little hand there to let me know it needs to be moderated. Oh, and it's not there because it has me in as a student. See if I can go into actions. Nope, it won't let me. Because I've logged in as a student in my own Flipgrid, I don't think I can moderate it. I just broke Flipgrid for you guys. All right, so what would happen typically is if somebody posts something, I can then moderate it, click OK, and it'll post to the board so other students can see it. When I set up my grids, you'll notice there's lots of different settings and different things we can do in here. I can delete the topics, hide the topics, and decide if I want to keep it active. I want to freeze it so that nobody can post to it, but it can be seen, or if I want to hide it, I'm just going to go over to my grids. So you'll notice what I did is I did period 1, group 3, period 2, group, or period 1, group 2. So that's how I labeled my grid so I could keep track of the groups in what class that I have as I assign them. So for instance, if this one I set up as a share ideas. So group 3, it's really a let's just vet ideas and think about what we would like to do. So I put my directions, what I wanted them to talk about, and how I wanted them to think about collaborating. So, and I can decide how I want to, again, add topic guests if I've got a co-teacher that I want to be able to come in here and watch and see and view and respond. If I want to hide, move the topic, duplicate, etc. So I want to show you also while you're in here is something called, well, mixtapes will let you download videos, but I want to go over here to the Disco library for those of you who are like, I see it, I get it, I don't know how I'm going to use it. They have a lot of already made conversation starters and topics and discussions, et cetera, in the Disco library that you can borrow. And this is from other teachers as well who are utilizing this tool. So just a thought, if you are stuck and you're like, I'm not sure how to use it, you can go in and see how other educators are using the tool. And I think that's super helpful when you're trying to explore the tool and decide how you want to use it. So they've got your age groups, your subjects, and you can even search topics. So just food for thought. I'm always about being able to borrow and adapt something versus having to come up with all the ideas on my own sometimes. All right, so moving on. Obviously, when it comes to collaboration with students, I think Google is one of those tools that has always been a go-to personally for me. If you want more information about options having to do with students collaborating, I did a lot of collaboration information having to do with Google in my discussions webinar, so I don't want to have to rehash all of that. If you are looking for it, this slide deck is where it is. Hopefully it's working. I'm going to go in after I'm done with this webinar and make sure all of our links are still working. And the recorded webinar is here if you want to go back and rewatch it. You can fast forward just to the part where I'm talking about what you're interested in. One of the things I would like to point out that's really important, and I guess I need to go into present mode, I apologize. When you're working in Google, if you have your students signed in, lost my slide. If you have them signed in, it's version history. For some reason, it's jumping that slide. Version history is under File. So if you go to File, you'll be able to find version history. It's just literally, we're just going to do this the old school style. File, version history, see version history. If the students are logged in, what it will do is highlight where they have been working so you can see the text. The thing I liked about it as an English language arts teacher is it would also time when the text went in. So if a student copied and pasted the text all from somewhere for a plagiarism reason, I could usually use that as a guide and say, huh, all this text appeared, 2-3 pages of text appeared at, you know, a certain time period that seems kind of fishy. So I could look into it a little more deeply. So version history is another great way of kind of seeing where students are when they're working. So a couple of different collaboration tools. When I'm collaborating Google Slides, obviously what I would do is create the template, share it to the students in the group so that it isn't everybody in the class. So this is my template for group 5, period 1. This is my template for group 4, period 1. And share it out that way. Push it out either via Google Classroom, or you can just share the link if there's another method that you're using. The same works with Google Sites. I would say if you go back to the question and answer webinar, you're going to find more information about how to use collaboration in Google Sites as well. A couple of other ones that work well with collaboration. Prezi allows students to collaborate within it. VoiceThread does too, but I would warn you, I've tried to use it. I was actually going to include it in a couple tutorials. The bandwidth situation with VoiceThread right now is kind of sketchy, I guess is the best way to put it. I found that it's very, very, very laggy right now because I think a lot of people are trying to use it. And it's one of those things where people are recording several videos, several audios into something, and that might be something that you want to avoid if you think bandwidth could be a concern. And Explain Everything, Ben, I know, has gone over Explain Everything in a couple of his webinars as well, if you go back through. So it is 9:37 and I have gone over time again. I'm good at this. If you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A and I'm going to do my best to answer any remaining questions that you might have. I am going to find our links to our webinar evaluation and to our Act 48 so that you guys can get your Act 48 credits and give us some feedback on what we're going over. All right, those are in the chat, both the Act 48 form and the evaluation. I don't see any questions coming up right now in the Q&A. I would like to thank you for attending. Know that you can go back to our website, learnon.iu12.org, where you can access all of our webinars for the rest of the day. We got one on the hour, every hour, all the way through 2 o'clock if you would like to check into another webinar today. I hope you guys have a fabulous Friday. And if this is your only webinar today, a fabulous weekend. Thank you.